presented a report claiming that the China-made shot's efficacy rate may be below 50%. A majority of the co-passengers of the Filipino who tested positive for the British variant of COVID-19 have already been contacted, but 13 remain uncooperative. Health authorities say sanctions await them. The country's travel order against more than 30 countries is extended until the end of the month. The ban now includes foreigners coming from the United Arab Emirates, where the Filipino case of the new variant came from. It may be widely used, but the FDA says Aidelai face masks did not go through evaluation. They are now ordering a stop to the selling and distribution of the popular face mask. And motorists can enjoy a toll-free 20-minute travel time from Makati to Quezon City via the newly opened Skyway Stage 3. But that may soon change. Proposals are now on the table for a 247 peso charge. President Duterte says he's willing to take a backseat in getting vaccinated against COVID-19. That's a turnaround from his statement last August when he offered to be first to get injected. Some Filipinos are still a bit uneasy with the idea of COVID-19 jabs, but the president getting vaccinated could spark some confidence, they say. Jenny Dongon reports.
Months after volunteering to get the first shot of COVID-19 vaccine in the country, President Rodrigo Duterte now says he is willing to let others get an early turn. In a briefing on Wednesday, Duterte insisted vulnerable sectors would be among those who will get the first jobs.
Ang fifth priority is the uniformed personnel, PNP. Mga sundalo natin, kasama kayo sa mga priority. Para mauna talaga yung mga pobre. Wala talaga. Tapos kayo, halos dating ng kung milyon yan, magsabay-sabay na kayo. Tsaka huli na kami. Kung may maiwan para sa amin, kay Bong, kay Secretary Lorenzana, kung may maiwan para sa atin, unahin natin sila.
But for Zhao, a tricycle driver, and Elliot, a vendor, they want the president to be vaccinated first, just to make sure that the vaccine is indeed safe. Zhao says he still has doubts, but one thing may convince him to give it a shot.
Sila muna mga opisyalis, mga nasa gobyerno. Pagkita muna nila sa mga gobyerno. Kung effective, di sa kami magpapaano.
Kung ayaw nilang pabakuna?
Di ayaw din namin po, kung ayaw nila.
Ayaw ko muna. Kasi nakakatakot nga dapat, di ba? Mahirap yung makipag-ano kay. Yung i-ano mo yung sarili mo. Parang hindi naman maganda eh.
Elmer, a delivery boy, says he's willing to get a job if the vaccine is free and maybe as long as it's not from China.
Basta sasagutin ng gobyerno, libre, okay lang. Ano problema yun eh. Sana yung sa Pfizer, kasi yun ang in-approve ng FDA.
Oo. Eh, paano yung iba? Galing China.
China? Well, nag-gawa China, di ba? Second rate. Hindi na tayo sa in-approve ng gobyerno.
On One News, the chiefs, Senator Richard Gordon, who's also the chairman of the Philippine Red Cross, said there's nothing wrong if the president gets the first COVID vaccine job.
There's nothing wrong with presidents having their vaccination ahead. It's not an issue because kung nauna sila, ang ayoko lang doon, kung nagpa-test kayo, dapat malaman natin ano naging reaction. Because kung may ganyan, at least sabihin nyo, magkakaroon ng allergic reaction, alam natin kung ano sasabihin natin.
Meanwhile, Dr. Ted Herbosa, medical advisor to the National Task Force on COVID-19, urged the public not to be brand conscious. In his interview on 1PH sa Totoo Lang, Dr. Herbosa said the public, especially the frontliners and vulnerable sectors, should take the opportunity to be vaccinated.
Pag dumating yung bakuna, get the vaccine that's given to you earliest. Kasi kung maghihintay ka pa dun sa gusto mong designer vaccine, baka 9 months later pa dumating yon.
Personally, though, Dr. Herbosa said he prefers getting traditional vaccines over the mRNA kind now used in COVID-19 vaccines. He said there might have been reported complications from those who got vaccinated, but such cases are only minimal. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
Should President Duterte decide to get the first COVID-19 vaccine in the country, he will be joining a pool of world leaders and figures that have already gotten shots. The recent addition to that list are Pope Francis and his predecessor, Benedict XVI. The Vatican did not say when the two got inoculated. They are both high risk and are believed to have received Pfizer's vaccines. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden, meanwhile, already had his final dose of Pfizer shots on January 11. He even went on live TV for that to reassure Americans that vaccines are safe. Britain's Queen Elizabeth and her husband Prince Philip, both in their 90s, have been given the injection last January 9. No disclosure, though, on which shots were administered. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was vaccinated on Thursday using China's Sinovac vaccines. Over in Southeast Asia, Indonesian President Joko Widodo was also the first in the archipelago to be vaccinated. He received a dose of China's Sinovac. Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong took Pfizer's jab last January 8 to show Singaporeans that the vaccine is safe and effective. Officials tried to clarify before the Senate that the government can still cancel its commitment with China's Sinovac, that is, if regulators refuse to recommend its use. One lawmaker also bared a study showing that the shot's efficacy is less than 50%. Meanos Baños with a big story.
Pfizer's vaccines are sure to arrive in the country by February. But speaking before the Senate, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez says there's no assurance yet as to the volume of the initial shipment. He says the World Health Organization's COVAX facility has yet to decide on the matter. What's certain, though, says Galvez, is that 17 million doses of AstraZeneca shots will arrive by May, as well as 30 million shots from Novavax in the third quarter. Gamaleya and Sinovac may also have early deployment, but with Sinovac having a 50.4% efficacy rate in its latest trial in Brazil, Senate President Tito Soto can't help but ask, is it safe? A member of the ad hoc committee on vaccination says that rating is within the WHO standard of 50 to 70% efficacy rate.
No protection, of course, is worse than a partial protection. So I guess that would be a good efficacy rate should you be able to get that vaccine.
But pointing to a report by the Center for Disease Control, Senator Panfilo Lacson said that Sinovac's efficacy is only at 49.58%. Dr. Bravo says the vaccine panel still has to study all angles when it comes to a shot's efficacy. Senator Nancy Binay quizzed Galvez as to why there seems to be a preference for China's Sinovac when there are other options like AstraZeneca. It has a higher efficacy rate and is cheaper at $10 or 480 pesos for 2 shots.
In the interest of speed, kasi nga gusto natin mabakunahan kaagad, di ba? Yung AstraZeneca ho, ang tagal na, nag-apply na to, I think last December pa ng EUA nila. Maraming bansa na ang gumagamit na itong AstraZeneca. Pero hindi natin ito ginastusan ng national government money. Unlike yung Sinovac po, na wala pang kaka-apply lang ng EUA, hindi yung bababa yung efficacy. Kasi nga, technically, hindi pa nga tapos yung ano nila, kaya wala pang publication about the vaccine. Ito, ginastusan na natin ng pera ng national government.
Wala pa po, ma'am. Wala pa po tayo ginagastos sa lahat ng vaccine.
May commitment na kayo.
Solely advanced market commitment.
Testing czar Vince Dizon clarifies nothing is set in stone yet.
Pwede pa bang hindi natin bilhin yung Sinovac? Yun lang naman po yung tanong ko, Senator President.
Ma'am, the answer to that is yes. If the vaccine expert panel does not recommend a certain vaccine, then the Philippine government will not purchase and will not administer the vaccine. The choice of vaccine is heavily reliant on what the vaccine expert panel recommends. Hindi pa po final ito. So, hihintayin po natin ang vaccine expert panel final recommendation based on the phase 3 clinical trials and also the FDA issuance of the emergency use authority.
Senator Lacson also took the time to clarify that the upper chamber is not politicizing the vaccine program. This after Galvez allegedly accused senators of demonizing some manufacturers like Sinovac.
It is indeed unfortunate that the Senate is being dragged as a scapegoat by projecting the narrative that this inquiry is being used as an avenue for political agenda.
Senator Cynthia Villar also had qualms about how vaccines procured by private firms will be allocated. Agreements state that 50% of the total dosage will be donated to the government in order to benefit indigents. The remainder may be used for the company's employees provided that the DOH priority list will still be followed.
Kumpanya, bumili siya ng doses at hindi siya will not be allowed to use it to the employees of the company. Ba't pa siya bibili? Hindi mo naman pwede sabihin na tindera mo lang ang bibigyan mo, hindi mo bibigyan yung mga manager mo. Without the managers, who will manage the tindera? This is impractical.
In the end, the NTF clarified that all the other employees can be provided with the vaccine but only after those in the priority list are done with the inoculation. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns. 13 co-passengers of the Filipino male who contracted the British variant of COVID-19 may face sanctions. They remain uncooperative in contact tracing efforts. And the travel order against more than 30 countries has been extended until January 31. The details on that after the break. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Some of the close contacts of the first reported UK variant case in the Philippines continue to avoid contact tracing efforts. What are the penalties that await them should they continue to be uncooperative? Greg Gregorio tells us.
The DOH is still tracing 13 of the 159 total co-passengers of the 29-year-old Filipino from Dubai who tested positive for the new COVID-19 variant. While the patient is still in an isolation facility in Quezon City and in a stable condition, health authorities were able to contact 146 or 92% of the passengers of Emirates flight EK332. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said these uncooperative close contacts may face sanctions for violation of RA 11332 or the mandatory reporting of notifiable diseases and other health events. Penalties include a 20,000 to 50,000 peso fine, imprisonment of 1 to 6 months, or both, depending on court discretion. Suspension and revocation of license is also possible if the violator is a medical professional, and the same gravity to the civil service eligibility if the violator is a public servant.
Kami public health emergency, you need to cooperate with government, whether it be for quarantine, for isolation, for contact tracing, for testing.
Swab test results for the retest on his girlfriend and parents are still pending. Advisor to the National Task Force on COVID-19, Ted Herbosa, meanwhile, allayed fears of community transmission in the country. In an interview with one PHS sa Totoo Lang, Herbosa said it's most likely that a patient contracted the virus abroad.
Nagstay siya ng 14-day quarantine pag-arrive niya. So nagkataon lang, nag-positive siya, and nung sinubmit yung tests niya, yung samples niya sa UP Philippine Genome Center, na-detect yung variant. So most likely nakuha niya yon doon sa kanyang business deals.
In a separate case, the 10 close contacts in Cagayan of a Pinay domestic helper who tested positive for the new variant in Hong Kong all came out negative, while all 17 of her close contacts in Manila initially tested positive for COVID-19. But based on the retest conducted, due to their viral load, only 6 tested positive with the virus. Their specimens were not subjected to gene sequencing due to low viral load.
Naggamit kami ng ibang kit, testing kit, no? May isang testing kit na ginamit nung una, gumamit ng ibang testing kit itong PGC just to validate further. And they found that out of the 17, 6 na lang yung nag-positive dito sa another kit. So that gave us another question. So ngayon pinag-aaralan pa uli itong mga specimens po na ito.
Authorities have decided to subject to gene sequencing all incoming travelers who will test positive of COVID-19, regardless of their country of origin. Verher said the Philippine Genome Center will be able to test up to 700 samples at a time. This is part of the intensified biosurveillance in the country. Meanwhile, Verher said there are no talks yet of a deployment ban to countries with reports of the new variant. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
The Interagency Task Force has extended the period of the travel ban on countries with known cases of the new COVID-19 variant until the end of the month. The Bureau of Immigration said they will be implementing the IATF resolution on the travel ban until January 31. The restriction was originally scheduled to end today. The ban now covers 34 countries. That would include the United Kingdom, where the new variant was first reported. The order also now covers Hungary and the United Arab Emirates, where the first Filipino case of the British variant traveled from before getting infected. And these are the other big stories tonight. From the Philippine Star, the Bangko Sentral says it is premature to conclude that the missing deposits at East West Bank were indeed stolen. The lender disclosed that one of their bank managers went missing along with deposits of 2 long-time customers. The BSP says they are already looking into these unauthorized transactions. East West Bank has also launched its own probe. PhilHealth still owes the Philippine Red Cross 550 million pesos. PRC Chairman Senator Richard Gordon confirmed to the chiefs that the state insurer recently paid 160 million pesos. He says, however, that their testing centers remain underutilized. The Supreme Court has postponed its oral arguments on the anti-terror law after a staff of Solicitor General Jose Calida contracted COVID-19. The oral arguments for the controversial law were scheduled for January 19, close to 6 months since President Duterte signed the measure. It has now been moved to February 2. The High Court said no further postponement will be allowed. Now, those who wish to get to receive COVID-19 shots in the country might receive vaccine passports. The Health Department has bared plans of issuing QR code-activated passports. Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere says it will show how many doses an individual has already received. The DOH is in talks with the Communications Department to create a data registry for passport holders. Vergere says the passports may be part of travel restriction protocols.
Itong vaccine passport na ito, meron po tayo, magkakaroon tayo ng ganyan. Ano? Is widely implemented already. I guess this will be part of the protocol to control the borders of each of these countries that we have around the globe.
And a warning to those using Aidelai disposable face masks, the Food and Drug Administration says the popular Taiwanese face mask brand has not gone through the agency's evaluation. The same warning has been issued against a brandless product labeled as disposable medical mask. The agency has ordered establishments to stop the distribution and the advertisement for the mask. We'll go for another quick break. When the big story returns, enjoy it while it's free. Travel by the Skyway Stage 3 remains without charge, at least for now. And one of the most famous magical illusions in the world is having its centennial celebration over the weekend. Find out what that is after the break. Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. With the opening of the Skyway Stage 3, motorists not only get to travel quickly between Makati and Quezon City, they also get to drive without charge. But will the euphoria soon die down as proposals are up for a 250 peso toll fee? Let's find out in JC Cosico's report.
Ever dreamt of traveling from Balintawak in Quezon City to Buendia in just half an hour? And during rush hour at that, me and my news crew did just that. In fact, at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour, our team reached Makati in just 18 minutes. That's the promise of the newly opened 18-kilometer Skyway Stage 3 project to cut the usual 2-hour travel time between Makati and QC to only 20 minutes.
Ay, before, kung galing ka siguro sa NLEX, papunta sa airport, 2 hours can accommodate more than 100,000 a day. According to San Miguel, up to 200,000 a day, kaya.
The Skyway Stage 3 links the South and North Luzon expressways. 7 of its 16 ramps are already open to motorists. The rest are slated to be completed in the first half of the year. It is also expected to ease congestion along EDSA, reducing vehicle volume by as much as 30% or 120,000 cars daily. But that has yet to happen, says the Metro Manila Development Authority. The new thoroughfare partially opened 4 lanes as early as last month. But the MMDA only tallied a 2% drop in vehicle volumes last week, or around 10,000 units, compared during Christmas time. Overall, however, the MMDA says they are surprised that traffic along EDSA is lighter than usual.
Sabi namin, pwedeng Skyway 3. Pwede siguro nag-work from home na yung mga karamihan sa atin. So, yung pangatlo, yung iba nag-extend ng bakasyon, I do not know. Hindi na makabalik dito for whatever reason.
While its effect on EDSA remains to be seen, motorists flying the new Skyway are more than satisfied, especially since it's still toll-free. But that may soon change. Skyway management is proposing to charge motorists 274 pesos between Makati and Balintawak. The first section from Buendia to Ramon Magsaysay will have a fee of 141 pesos, while the second section between Ramon Magsaysay to Balintawak NLEX will cost motorists 133 pesos.
Kung ano man po ang magiging desisyon ng ating pamunuan, ay siguradong it should be reasonable, it should be commensurate sa benepisyong matatanggap at natatanggap naman ng ating motorista sa paggamit ng ating Skyway Stage 3.
But how are motorists taking this? Is the honeymoon stage with the Skyway Phase 3 going to be short-lived?
Para po sa akin, okay na yun kasi Kahit 274 siya, at least hindi na siya ganun ka-traffic. Pero mas bababa nila, much better.
But while that's yet to be finalized, motorists can still enjoy a toll-free drive until further notice. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
Time for the big stories in sports. A look at the game with Laura Lehman.
Thanks, Robbie. After the departure of former MVP James Harden, the Houston Rockets launched with a victory over the San Antonio Spurs. Christian Wood led the way with a monster double-double of 27 points and 50. Now on to some more Western Conference action. Nuggets All-Star Nikola Jokic leads the way to outduel former MVP Steph Curry and the Warriors. Be sure to catch the NBA regular season action on NBA TV Philippines. And that's it for the latest in the world of sports. Catch us later at 9:30 p.m. on One News and One Sports Plus. My name is Laura Lehman, and this has been The Game.
It's one of the oldest tricks in the book, so old it is marking its 100th magical anniversary this weekend. I'm talking about sawing a woman in half. Tagged as the most influential and most famous illusion, this classic was born when illusionist P.T. Selbit put a woman in a box on the stage of London's Finsbury Park Empire and sawed right through the wood. Magicians developed refinements to the classic trick over the years. Celebrity magician David Copperfield even had his own version, the Death Saw. The variation had Copperfield tied to a platform as a giant rotary blade sliced him in two. The London-based Magic Circle organization will hold the celebrations with a live-streamed event on Facebook. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again on Monday at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.